Hey guys, how are we doing? Another week, another episode.
How are you guys? Yeah, another week after a pretty hectic week last week with all of the updates
And the week before.
and
Am
the
I
week before.
actually the only guy where everything worked just fine?
So you've had
Probably.
issues with uploads, download, anything?
Yeah, Ariel would be probably very, very proud of me. But, oh well. Anyway, no, I have no issues whatsoever. And I think I'm one of those lucky few.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we also said that we've had a little bit of feedback from a few people saying that maybe over an hour is a bit long for the podcast. So we're going to try hard to keep this one to around the 30-minute mark. The overall topic from today is if I try and set the scene. So yeah, with a project the size and complexity of Hivemapper, there's always going to be some hiccups along the way, and we know that the team isn't enormous, so they have to really prioritize what it is they're working on. And kind of inevitably, I think all three of us think that there's different things that they could have done differently along the way to kind of be in a better position, or maybe some things that deserve a bit more attention than they're getting right now. So this today's episode is going to be highlighting some of the things that we all kind of individually think that Hivemapper could be focusing on going forwards to get to where we think we need to be. And we'll all have an opportunity to kind of chip in with each other's comments as well. Does that sound more or less in line with what we're thinking?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice segue into also discussing the last one or two updates that came out from Hivemapper, which were disastrous, I think, to say the least. I myself have lost 5 drivers because of it, right? So for those that haven't experienced it with the update released last week, transfers to the phone and to the internet were excruciatingly slow. So they were very, very slow. So it took people sometimes 24 to 48 hours in order to upload everything that's to the internet, and then from the dash cam it took hours and hours. So that, especially for those, we've seen a lot of people complain in Discord, especially those that have fleet drivers that are not very familiar with crypto, like Leo and myself. It's been a really big impact because people just don't have the patience and don't want to spend hours in their car waiting for it to transfer. And they have been saying, the feedback I've got in general is that the firmware updates are getting worse over time. Instead of getting better, they're actually getting worse. So in the beginning, the GPS worked better, the recording, etc., worked better. And right now, as we've discussed a bit last week, with the increasing load and etc. on the dash cam, the experience has been going downhill, right? Which has an impact on the amount of financial return that we have to give drivers. The more time and effort they spend, the more they have to be paid. And then, of course, the token has been going down as well recently, which again, there is absolutely no clear information on the tokenomics. So there's only sell pressure. There is virtually no buy pressure, except for a few, as we've seen on the Explorer, except a few wealthy individuals that are buying a big stash of tokens. Other than that, it's mostly sell pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, Leo, maybe you want to chip in on your experience over the last.
I'm sort of love to give the experience of a fleet manager. Just before I do, I've said it before, I'm less concerned about the immediate token price, because I think that if we get things right in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, then that kind of rectifies itself. I think it's natural with a project like this that at the beginning there's going to be a lot of sell pressure, because all that's happening is people are getting the tokens, the clients aren't buying the map yet because we haven't made it. So I'm not so concerned about that. However, that does actually tie into something I was going to bring up later, but I might as well say it now. My drivers as a fleet manager, they do care what the token price now is, right? Because ultimately they're thinking in dollars. And if they're not getting enough in dollar term or fiat term, they're going to get annoyed if they have to do a lot of effort to actually make the camera work. And therefore, they're going to give the cameras back. So you said you've had 5 in the last week or two. I think I've also had about 5 or 6 cameras returned in the last week or two for exactly that reason. And there's nothing that the Hivemapper team can do immediately about the price of the token. But I think for this to work long term, at least from a fleet management perspective, either the amount of honey paid has to get higher, or probably the one to focus on, the camera needs to get more and more passive to use. I've also spoken to a lot of drivers, and they all say the same thing, like over the last few weeks, like the longer that time's gone on, the worse the experience has got. And I know that like it's not the same for everybody, but I've got drivers who've been here from like March, April this year, and these are the guys who've really like seen the change from like start to finish. And they're the ones I've been speaking to, and they've all said, you know, like it seems to have got worse over time. It's not, I don't think it's kind of enough to say, well, we've got Dashcam 2.0 software, and that's been like a massive step in the right direction. It has been, but in my opinion, it's definitely not sufficient for the mapping experience to be passive enough to justify the amount that the drivers are getting right now. I'm infinitely thankful for my drivers who are being patient, and a lot of them, it's really cool actually. I think they do see the long-term potential of the project, and it's great that I've got so many awesome drivers who do see that. But at the same time, I've had, like you, Maya, a lot of return cameras because of the lack of passiveness.
Yeah, and go ahead, Mladen.
The crazy thing, actually, everything you discussed in the last couple of minutes, it has been told to Hivemapper during our mod sessions. They were warned that this was going to happen, but it was always waved off. Like let's postpone it. Let's see what happens, and we will learn from that. So actually, that whole learning process is not really happening, and that brings a little bit of my issue, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, about their idea of the world compared to the real world. And that's what I'm afraid of, that they're constantly living in a parallel universe instead.
You said lack of learning that's been annoying you. I know that the way that they would phrase it, which there's a lot of truth in it, would be that they have limited resources, what it's like 30, 31, 32 people, so they can't focus on everything at the same time. Just as an interesting thought process, do you think that they should be hiring more people so that they can do more things at one time?
No. Of course, at the end of the day, it's always about having enough people. But those people need to have the right knowledge, so that process will cost also as well. It's the fun thing is we warn them, really, guys, do not do that because it's going to bite you. And the literal answer was, well, we are going to try it and we will learn from that anyway.
Do not do that being what specifically?
Sorry?
You said that you told them, guys, do not do that. What do you mean? Do not do what specifically?
For example, the whole open road thing, I said, this is a really bad idea. I said, okay, well, let's see how it works out, and then we will learn from there. That's just one of the things. And also the thing you mentioned about it needs to really be or passive or it needs to pay enough. And then, well, obviously, the being passive, they don't care really much at this point. All they care about is what the client wants. That's what we see. That's what
they showed before that it was kind of on their radar, because like I think that is the most important thing for me. It's like get it as passive as possible. And they started the Open Dashcam initiative. Like, Maya, do you know what's happened with that?
Well, from what I've seen, it's been stopped. I don't know if it's temporary or definitive, but we have a Chinese guy that reached out last week, and he wanted to actually start with the design process of the new dashcam, but it gets completely ignored by Hivemapper and and the team. So any question, any kind of motivation from their side is completely gone. Like there's no, hey guys, let's let's do this and that, right? We need to have the guidance ready, because in order to properly do this, you need a lot of structure, right? You need guidance for manufacturers, right? What are the specifications? You need maybe some designs of the existing dash cam. None of it has been shared by neither Hivemapper or the company that actually builds the dash cams for Hivemapper. Like, I have requested, hey guys, send me the PCB designs so that Guang, one of the guys that wanted to build a dash cam, can actually start going with it. But after the first week that Ariel was very optimistic, right? He posted a tweet. After that, we had the entire discussion on RTK, right, in order to do GPS corrections, which they mentioned that it was not the solution, which still baffles me, because from a mapping perspective, it makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, after that, it was silence. Like, we haven't gotten any more, no feedback, no interest, nothing. So from there.
What's he been doing for like the last weeks or months or whatever? However long it's been?
Guang, which is the Chinese guy who's been in the mapping industry for about 15 to 20 years as a hardware engineer. Well, he as I mentioned last time, he made a couple of prototypes for an external GPS module as a proof of concept. They have been shipped over to Hivemapper, but there's been zero feedback on it. And then after that, he messaged me last week and said, hey, what should I do, right? I mean, I want to build a dash cam for Hivemapper, but there's no communication, zero, nada. So I just told him, just from what I've seen, just move on, just go do something else. Because it's with Hivemapper, it appears that they have some of these moments, which is a big fluke. They have a lot of ideas. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this, but then nothing really happens, right? It just sits there. It's not like they don't have the time for it, because I was actually going to help set everything up, right? But every single question that I send their way gets ignored, right? Or get some kind of weird answer. So yeah, I just gave up as well. I'm like, okay, fine. But yeah,
is
so
that the open dash cam initiative? Like, is there any, is it happening? Is it not happening?
No, for at least how things are going now, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. And especially also back when they took the initiative, Ariel sent out a lot of emails to a lot of different hardware manufacturers, and all of that stuff went cold, right? I mean, if there's no progress, these things have to keep moving, and for some reason they just thought, well, maybe let's not do it. I don't know why. I mean, if I have to guess, it might be that they want to keep control of everything, right? They don't want to give the control to other manufacturers to build their own dash cam, because then, for example, you can't say, oh no, the GPS is fine, when the GPS is not fine, right? Then basically you have complete control. If you let other people manufacture it, then you don't have the control. But anyway, if it might also be because it's not the right time, but then they should just communicate that and not just leave myself and everyone hanging. So no, for anyone that has any hope to get the open source dashcam, I don't have any indication from the observations that it's gonna happen anytime soon.
I actually think this is quite simple to dissect. They made something which is the HDC that's not up to the job. That's been proven so many times. They want to put a shitload of stuff in it, and every time we get a new firmware update, it gets worse and worse. And I think those guys would be would actually prove that the hardware they are shipping it's simply not good enough. I think that's a thing.
Well, one thing that I'm absolutely sure of is that Hivemapper is not a hardware company. Let's put it that way. They've hired a company in order to build the dashcam for them, which we've discussed has been a little bit subpar in terms of quality and etc. And from everything that I've seen from this Chinese guy, is that they can make a better dashcam for less money. So in terms of better components, cheaper, better cooling, better everything. But yeah, I mean there has to be interest, right, internally for to actually explore it. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll in half a year or so we'll get an announcement that, oh, we're going to build a dash cam, but yeah,
at least from my perspective, like it's I saw that as being the main thing that gets us like one step closer to having a passive dashcam, because like you have loads of different people in an ideal world making different versions of it, and the best one wins.
Exactly, and that's something that scares me as well, is that as you've mentioned, we as investors that buy the hardware, although we don't have any legal say on anything, we as investors that buy the hardware, we want this hardware to work for many years, right? For many years down the line, at least a couple. And we, although we don't care too much about the token price, drivers do. Drivers care in the end of the day how much
token price.
Yes, long term, but drivers care about how much they make this week, right?
You know,
so
if they continue this way, there will be no long term.
No, exactly. So that's my point. So if there's no dash cam that's released that makes things easier, right now I prefer to spend 20 euros or $20 a month on a SIM card which gets inserted into a dash cam and does everything automatically. I prefer spending $20 right now than having to deal with all of these issues with drivers having to transfer the data, which is too slow, and etc. So what concerns me, of course, regarding the open dashcam is if there is no innovation going towards a more passive experience, if the token's price continues to drop as it's been doing, it hasn't been dropping too hard, but it's going down over the last month if you look at the trend. If it continues this way and we get another decimal point, it's going to be game over, at least for many fleets and for Mapper.
We also have a couple of indications from people. What I heard is when the token price shifts one more decimal, they will be turning off the camera, because they just don't want to give Hivemapper material for the principal point. At a certain point, Hivemapper will still be earning the same amount of money, while the mappers are getting close to nothing. So
yeah, and that's certain to Mladen, but that's again, we're almost in October. So Ariel promised that in October we'll get some more information on the very needed tokenomics in order to revert some of these situations, right? We need clearance on that. So it's almost October, not quite yet, but we are very much looking forward over the next couple of weeks to get some more information on how the tokenomics work from demand side, right? We're not talking about just burning tokens, because that will not have any effect, at least in the short, medium term. All right. Then we have we're getting up onto the deadline of the open road competition. So the open road competition was 6 million kilometers, unique kilometers, until the 1st of October. So we already know that. Go ahead, Leo.
What are we on?
We are on right now on 5.2 million unique road kilometers, which is an improvement from last week. Actually, we've mapped twice as many unique.
We obviously don't have long left this month, but it's pretty close. No. And we've been talking about it's all gloom and doom, and we can't do it without a passive dasher. Maybe we can, because it's like the numbers are kind of showing the opposite of what we're saying. We're sort of talking about doomsday, but actually the figures are showing something quite different. That's even
no.
5.2 is decent,
Well,
right?
I don't quite think that's accurate. I think we're seeing something that happened with helium as well, that people are very fixated on the early returns of dashcams, and they see it as an interesting opportunity, and they buy the dashcam, which you cannot do anymore until January. So I don't think necessarily that's the case. And also, as Mladen mentioned last week, the HDCS dashcams have been shipping. So about, I don't know exactly how much, but I think between 60 to 100 dashcams a week. So they have been shipping. So I think what we're seeing in terms of this increase is new mappers getting the HDCS dashcam, which are starting to create that boost, right? That initial unique coverage in their own areas. So I expect that once the sale of the HDCS starts to slow down, we are going to see a less of an increase. So this is probably mostly attributed to the S dashcam owners.
Are they still fulfilling the pre-orders of S's, or are they now fulfilling the new orders?
They are still filling the. I mean, last I checked, they're still filling the S dashcam pre-orders. I don't know where they are in their pre-order fulfillment range, but they're definitely still fulfilling those pre-orders, which is what we're seeing now, this coverage boost, which is good, right? I think, again, having more coverage for Hivemapper is good, as long as the underlying economics and dynamics are sound.
Yeah. Let's see next week what's going to happen, because we are actually not going to get to 6 million. That's obvious. So
yes,
I heard from people that many of them asked, what's going to happen? Are you going to pay anyway, or are we going to to postpone the date? That question was 100% ignored.
What was the payment meant to be if we reached the 6 mil?
What do you mean?
So if we were successful and reached the 6 million kilometers, what then was meant to happen if we reached?
Yeah, you would get 3 tokens per unique kilometer you mapped.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's not going to happen, and they're avoiding answering that question. So, yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of mad people. That's correct. Because people, even if we do not reach those 6 million, people actually expect something, as a lot of people were detouring, spending a shitload of money on it, which made no sense to start with. But a lot of people invested time and money to get to the goal. And I think most people expect something out of it.
I think it would be mental if they didn't give something out of it, whether it's 3, whether it's 2, whether it's 1 Harley per kilometer, whatever. But
it doesn't cost them anything.
Well, it's lack of these firmware updates for the last 2 weeks have just been an absolute disaster. It's been awful. And purely because of that, put aside whether we got to 6 million or not, purely because of that, I think the community deserves something in return for their time. So I think they'd be mental not to give some sort of reward.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, and I think they were probably will.
So, quick update on this. We actually recorded this episode earlier in the week before the official announcement, but Hivemapper have just announced that actually they are extending the Open Road Season 1. So, until we actually reach the 6 million kilometer mark, they're extending the timeline. They go on to say that they recognize that achieving the 6 million unique kilometers by the end of September was challenging due to the slow upload speeds and some reliability issues for latest firmware releases, and therefore they're extending it until we reach the 6 million kilometer milestone. And also that they will honor the 3 honey per unique kilometer mapped that they previously promised, which is great to see.
Will give it, right? Especially since they're just giving out air, right? I mean, they just mint the tokens and send them. So definitely
about that last thing about there was something strange going on. I saw it today. There is a guy in Arizona that got around 40K for 300 kilometers, and it was all paid in bursts, like 40K in bursts for 300 kilometer of work. It's crazy. And
yeah, well, go ahead.
yeah, please.
No, I was just saying that, yeah, I think bursts is another interesting point. So I expressed my concerns with the bursts. So so for a burst, right, you get an extra bonus for driving a specific route, which you can agree with or not, right, if it makes sense for you or not.
Yeah.
But one of the main things I didn't agree with is that currently anyone can drive a specific burst, and then the reward pot gets split across different people. And since these rewards are already not very high, right? If you look at the burst, they are 100 honey per let's say one block or something. It makes absolutely no sense to me to divide these rewards. I would just say, okay, if 3 people map a specific section, a specific burst, either just give all 3 100 honey and take the burst off of the map, and then at least you have some redundancy. But as it is right now, it makes no sense. For example, I was in a car a few weeks ago in a guy that was an Uber driver in a vehicle, and he said that he gets kind of bonus trips from Uber. So let's say he does 20 trips, and then for one trip after that he gets, let's say, $20 bonus, right, for doing a trip. This is kind of a little bit of the same gamification as Hivemapper does, but it's clear, right? Okay, you get the Uber app doesn't say you get maybe a percentage of $20, because then no one in the normal world is going to say, oh, well, sure, maybe if I get 1%, it's cool, and they're going to.
It actually says in the screen you are getting a portion off.
It says in the screen, sure, but it makes no sense. And as I said, there are a lot of people that don't speak English that well, that don't understand it properly. So it makes no sense to me. I mean, Jay said, yeah, we're going to iterate it and improve it. But as it is now, I think it's more misleading. They actually said that I was misleading by being critical about it, but I think actually it's more misleading now than.
You know what's the worst part of this whole bursting? Imagine, I think you know where I'm going. Those tokens are being minted instead of bought from the market.
Yes, we've discussed it last week as well, right? So those tokens are being minted out of thin air, and then they're being given to mappers. Yeah, instead of, because if they come from customer, like even if they don't come from customers and they're just from Hivemapper Inc., which is fine, right? They can do their testing. Even then, just buy the tokens off the open market and send them to mappers. But honestly, just to kind of, I know it's a bit of ranting, but I get a little bit of sick and tired of this stuff not being clear, because it's Ariel says, yeah, we don't want to do the same playbook, but it's goddamn the same thing. All of these.
He's doing a worse playbook.
Many of these projects do the same thing. It's like
we're being super pedantic and like sort of dissecting things, right?
I don't think so.
But wait. So look, we've complained for many weeks in a row about the fact that the burst economics don't make sense and that they need to be higher. And it's obviously a bit of an experiment they're doing. And then we've also said, well, this guy in Arizona's got 40,000 honey tokens for 300 kilometers, which seems like a good return. And like, we're complaining about that as well. So there needs to be some sort of middle ground. Like, we can't complain what's low and then complain what's high.
Something went wrong there.
That was the point you made.
Yeah, that, I mean,
well, I don't, Mladen, I don't want to go that far, because last week there were 200,000 honey tokens up for grabs in Arizona. So it doesn't sound too weird that one guy actually did
300.
40,000. I think it was 200,000 to 300,000 burst rewards in Arizona alone, just in Arizona.
That guy had driven 300 kilometers.
Well, if he did every single burst, like those bursts were not that big. There were some bursts that were.
Makes
If
sense
it's
for
right.
me to buy a plane ticket right now, to hire a car, drive 300 kilometers in Arizona,
Yes.
fly back to Europe, and I would be getting at the price right now $3,500.
Sure,
Okay.
but I
It's
don't
not
see.
much, 40,000.
No, it's not that much. But
It's like $500, something like that. A bit less.
yeah, it's $500. So you can get a ticket there and then back.
I mean,
Yeah.
You're gonna have to swim. But you know,
my math was wrong on that one. But anyway,
sure, this one guy did those bursts. I don't have an issue with bursts in general. I think if it's worth for you, do it. If it's not worth for you, then you're gonna end up not doing it. I think it's more from, hey, there are people that want to do those bursts, but they don't know how much they're earning, and I think they should adopt a different strategy.
Bursts
And then
are the
again,
only way to get complete map coverage without having the super passive experience where everyone's just got a camera and they're driving everywhere. Bursts are the only way to get to that 100% coverage. So I think it's good that they're experimenting.
it's not crazy. Like GeoDNet just implemented these super hexes, which you can stake and install mine in specific hex, which you get a higher return. I mean, fine. I mean, that makes sense to get to optimize work into specific locations which are of most interest. But what to me is most critical, having gone through DeepIn since decentralized storage, which was 2013, which in my opinion was the start of DeepIn, not Helium.
Yeah.
It's the tokenomics is always where it breaks, and these projects like Hivemapper have such good potential that it will be a ginormous waste in order to have improper tokenomics, even if it's interesting for the company, right? It doesn't cost you anything to get the infrastructure up and going. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm sorry, but I cannot see the end of the tunnel unless they clear this stuff up. Like honestly, to me, all of the bursts, all of the other like the open road competitions and stuff like that, I mean, I don't really care. It's not relevant. It has to be, what has to be clear is how they are going to secure the demand side for the token, especially for those that spend money on a dash cam. Like, I cannot in my right mind at this very moment advise anyone buy a dash cam with the way the tokenomics are unclear right now. No one. Like, we bought the dash cams back in the day because it was very early, right? And they needed time to clear up. Yeah, gambled, but it was also from, okay, this looks like a competent team and they can get this information straight. But it's almost 2014 or 2024 here in a bit. And there is still no clear information on tokenomics, and it doesn't appear to be an interest either in clearing that stuff up. We've
been given a date, right? Let's see if they bring it out in October. We're all expecting 1st of October. Obviously not, but no, at some point.
Actually, there is a reason why this is going to be happening in October. As in November, their own tokens are starting to get unlocked. So I think something is going to come. There is a reason why they're mentioning the foundation, the tokenomics. Now they have the tokenomics in place. Well, actually, I know why the tokenomics. I mean, I think I know why the tokenomics are or were so unclear. I think they adjusted the formula as they came, because if it was like written on a paper, they would need some kind of a voting system or whatever to be able to do that. But they're keeping all this a little bit obscure just for a reason to be able to experiment. So this whole thing feels a little bit like us paying for the dash cam and giving them an infrastructure to experiment, which is not wrong as long as the experiment is paid well. Because people who are joining an experiment are actually going to prepare a good road for the people that are coming later.
It also doesn't mean it means it's not a decentralized project as well. If that's kind of central controls there, which again, I'm not really against.
I mean, I've rarely seen a project that is more centralized than Hivemapper. I mean, there's absolutely nothing decentral. There's nothing decentralized about Hivemapper. I mean, nothing, right? The structure. There's a term. There's no voting on any improvement proposals. There is no kind of independent foundation, right? We don't even know who is in the foundation. I mean, it's completely centralized. All aspects.
Well, there is only one person that actually is saying what's happened, and the rest has just to follow. I think even within the team, there is no too much room to disagree with Ariel.
A little bit of speculation probably there, because obviously we don't know what's going to work inside there.
Disclaimer for sure, but
educated.
Yeah, like Mladen said, if people earn well, which again, they can up the amount of tokens that they emit, right? That's what they've done in the past. Like since the very beginning, if you guys remember, we were getting much less tokens, right? They bumped up the tokens quite a bit, which gave us a good cushion. It's a bit like printing dollars or euros. It boosts the economy for a little bit, and then afterwards, we're getting now into the phase where printing those tokens isn't enough. And now if you look at CoinMarketCap, the token is been going down, even though there are a couple of people buying, as we've mentioned in the beginning. I'm very curious what's going to happen if this support is going to end, or when this support is going to end, this buying support, because I don't think from the volume we see that there are that many people selling. Right, there are quite a lot of people that are just holding the token, but that usually changes if the token drops very fast, right? Then people prefer the security of a stable coin instead of a coin that drops very much. So yeah, so it's a waiting game until, and also we haven't had any updates on the licensing, on the commercial licensing. The only comment we've had is, hey, if we were to discuss this stuff in public, that would be very worrisome. That's the only statement that we got, right? Which
I actually have an unofficial statement. I'm not going to give you names or whatsoever, but in a very short, the idea is, well, there are other companies like Mapillary and which are doing it right now. It's a gray area, and they are not. They were not got fined or whatsoever. So, well, we spend a lot of money and we follow our lawyers, and that's it.
All right. Okay. Well, I think it's time to sue Hivemapper then.
Yeah, let's finally earn some money.
Yeah, I mean, because of course, all jokes aside, that's what can happen, right? If you do it that way, then you open your door for those type of risks. Like, again, it's not my company, but I wouldn't like to be in that position, especially with Europe, because you guys probably seen the latest iPhone that's been released with the USB-C plug. That's because of Europe, and it's a company the size of Apple. So Europe doesn't fuck around. So
I missed the USB-C plug in
you
the
missed
Apple.
it. Well, basically they were forced by the European Union to switch to a USB standard, and it was very against their will, but they were
The
forced.
charging port, so you can just
Yes, exactly. Yes. So Europe.
Yeah, but according to Ariel in Europe, we are opposing any all kind of.
Yes, that was also yes. He basically tweeted that the GDP of Europe is a lot lower because of economic restrictions in terms of laws, right? Which
because of innovation failing.
Yeah, cost of innovation. Like he's not wrong in terms of the basics, but to everything there's a downside. Like San Francisco has more than 100,000 homeless people, and the social inequality is enormous. We don't have that in Europe. We don't have that many homeless people. We don't have that many social people, and we also control, right? We have a structure in which companies are not allowed to just do anything that they want, which is a little bit what Ariel is, right? He's a wild cowboy trying to shoot his way out of everything, which just, I mean, it's the US style of doing things a bit. Nothing wrong with it, again, but in Europe we have stricter laws for those type of things, and I think if you want to build a good mapping project, you have to be compliant across all jurisdictions, and that includes China again, because there are also people mapping in China, which is absolutely again illegal. I'm going to say it again: it's illegal to map in China, completely illegal. So no answer again, and we'll just keep bringing this stuff up.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a broken record, but as you said, like, you know, if you want answers, I guess you have to keep bringing it up. In the interest of time, because we said we were going to try and stick it to 30 minutes, I've got nothing else to add. Does anyone want to kind of I don't know, close it off with anything that we haven't mentioned so far? Oh, very quickly before we do, actually, it just came to my mind. Back to the whole thing about being a fleet manager. Yes, we know it's not passive, blah blah blah, but it's also the lack of tooling was one point I wanted to bring up. It would be awesome if we could get at some point some sort of tooling system to give us data analytics on earnings per driver, per region, all that kind of stuff, just to make our lives easier. But that's quite specific to fleet managers, so I'm not sure that anyone else really cares about that. But I just wanted to get it out there.
I have nothing to say anymore. I think we said everything. And
yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of updates, right, this week. Just kind of finalized. There's been a new dashcam and a new app update, which have been improving things a bit, but there's still a ways to go. The HDC dashcam has been having some issues with locking up. Oh, also interesting, good to point out, with this latest firmware with this latest app update, there has been many reports of leaking of 4G leaking of uploads. So basically, if you have uploads via mobile turned off, it still uploads to mobile. So that's an issue with this current release. They are reworking the way they launch updates. Finally, again, we've been sitting 2 weeks with these issues, and they cannot just release stuff into the wild like this.
It's been nice to see the incremental release of this one. They seem to have taken more time on the release, so good to see that they've learned at least from the last 2 weeks.
They shouldn't hurry these type of updates. I've seen a very weird issue, which is not relevant again to a lot of people, but if you have a fleet dash cam and you have your own dash cam and you basically connect to back and forth between the two dash cams, for some reason your non-fleet dash cam is locking up as well. So basically you have your own dash cam, which is not a fleet dash cam, and for some reason it's locking up. So there's a bug there. I have reported it, but there hasn't been any updates. So for anyone that has that issue, please mention it in the Discord as well. Then again, number of kilometers have been gone up. We went from 53 million kilometers mapped to 57. That's about a 4 million kilometers increase. Unique kilometers went up by 148,000, which we've discussed is probably most likely due to the HTC S dash cams that have been shipped. We are currently on app version 6.9.8, so make sure you check that. And on the dashcam firmware is 3.4.8 on the HTC, not the S version. I'm not sure which one we're on the S version, so make sure you check those out. And yeah, I think that's it for this week.
Cool then. That's everything for this week. Let's yeah, I'll see you see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, see you guys next week. Take care.
Yes.
Bye.